I'm Jo Diggs, and I consider myself a quilt artist. I have been in art probably all my life. I had dabbled in the embroidery world because that's all that was available at the time for people who loved fabric. Then the big jump for me really was getting into the quilt world and finding out how accepting they were of applique people. I have gravitated towards applique landscapes, and then recently I've been doing applique fanciful fish. I'm also a good teacher, so I still try to do some teaching of my technique, which I enjoy very much. I think I'm one of the few artists in the quilt world I know of who makes no drawings, no patterns, and doesn't work from an image in front of me. I simply cut fabric, and I assemble a bunch of fabrics that I think look good together and go with the idea that's in my head, and then I tack them up on my design wall, even if they're 4 and 5 yard pieces, and slowly zero in on the color arrangement I want. I do often have a certain idea in mind, but there's a lot of growth in a picture for me. I might put a few tiny pieces together with a sewing machine, but 99% of my work is done by hand, because when I started sewing for art purposes, there just were no aids. I guess what I care most about is that a piece of art is alive. The Four Seasons series of quilts is the culmination of many years of doing fabric landscapes. The first quilt was Remembered Vistas, and it truly relates to my 10 years in New Mexico. It was a very successful quilt with good light-dark contrast, and I was really pleased with it. The next one I did was a winter quilt, because I have learned that one of the nicest parts of being in Maine is having winter. It's visually cleaner, and it has birches in the middle of it, and I find that people just have some very almost automatic spiritual relationship to birches. So I did the snow quilt, and then the fun part of it is that I had done those two, and they were well received, and I liked them, and I decided that I could create the Four Seasons by adding 2 more. So I jumped off and did the summer quilt, which is of my garden or things that I would love to have in my garden. It allowed for some very interesting fabric use. It is machine quilted, which is one of the first. It has lovely, bright, clean lines to show the veins in the leaves. And then I struggled through spring, which turned out to be the real challenge of the series, because only once in the history of art have we focused on the pastel series, and that was the Impressionists, and I now have much greater respect for them because I see how hard it is to get oomph out of pastels.